Hello and welcome back to the NFL DFS slate breakdown for Thursday night football. We got the Giants versus the 49ers. Might be a blowout tonight, but there's still money to be made. We do have a pretty big spread at 10.5 points, but it is also a lower game total. So I think there is some interest here from a single game standpoint, and we are going to go over that today. But before we get into it, come join us at LineStar. Only $39.99 a month gets you access to all of the props and all of our DFS tools, all the sports we cover. Now is the best time of the year for DFS. So we got NFL in full swing. College football is going, baseball is still going, and basketball and hockey are right around the corner. Come join us. Get in now. All right. Now, let's have some fun. Let's go over this slate and see what we can uncover, some possible little gems that we can find. All right. So, as always, we will start at ownership. Look, quarterbacks are always going to be high owned, so we are going to just start by going over the flex spot here. Obviously, CMC, Kittle, and Samuel are the three highest owned guys. Does make it very interesting that the Giants side is the one that will be giving us some leverage. Now they are, big time underdogs. So with that, most people will be going to the passing game to get that leverage. There is Burita there, though. He is likely going to get the workload for the Giants at running back. However, it may not be just a one-sided, like Saquon, where Burita is just the workhorse. I don't know if that's necessarily going to happen. So it means Gary Brightwell or Eric Gray are both interesting running backs you can throw in there. Eric Gray is a very good pass catcher out of the backfield. So he is interesting, especially in a game script, where the Giants are down a lot. Burita is good at catching passes as well. So you can't just say no to Burita, but we don't really know what the split is going to be like for the running back position. The Giants, we do know that Slayton is likely to run the most routes. He's likely to play the most. Paris Campbell will be out there, but Darren Waller really is the true number one wide receiver, even though he is a tight end. There's also Hodgins is interesting. Hyatt is interesting. There's a lot of different pass catchers the Giants can throw at this game that are all interesting, including Sterling Shepard, who hasn't played much. He's still been working himself back from injury, but we know Daniel Jones and him have great rapport. He just needs to get on the field a little bit more, and he is going pretty low owned. So let's get into a little more position by position. At the quarterback spot, look, Brock Purdy, they are big time favorites, but we know the Giants or the Niners like to run the ball, which, makes me believe that Brock Purdy may be going slightly over-owned, while I think Daniel Jones is going under-owned. And now this is for a couple different reasons here. Without Barkley, Jones may be asked to run a little bit more, and that just gives so much more upside at the quarterback position. So I am absolutely interested in that. If we switch over to the matchup tool, it does show that Daniel Jones has a little better of a matchup. Now, the Giants got lit up by Dobbs, but Dobbs had a big rushing day, and Purdy, while he is a sneaky rusher, he is not going to be able to put up, 50, 60 yards rushing. He's more of like a 20-yard rush and a touchdown type guy, not, big-time mobility like, say, a Daniel Jones. So I do think it is very interesting to go with Jones. I do think as a quarterback, he is going a little bit lower owned than he should, especially if the game script plays out how it is expected, where the Giants are down and having to throw the ball, spread it out a little bit more. And what happens with that game script is it gives Jones more chances to rush the ball. So I think he's very interesting. Now let's get over to the running back spot. This is obviously a slam dunk spot for CMC. James Conner, Tony Pollard both crushed the Giants. CMC has crushed everybody and likely does once again today. He is very expensive. He's going to be super high owned and all those things he should be. Now, Burita is the big question mark here. I think he is going a little bit under-owned at this point. If you see, he was only the RB1 once last season. And in that game, 4 carries, 28 yards, but a ton of receptions. 8 targets, 7 receptions, but only 12 yards against that good Eagles D. So I think it is interesting with Burita. I think he does have a legit chance of, being the guy. However, he may not be, and he likely isn't, a 15-plus rush guy today. He's probably more in that 8 to 12 range of rush attempts, and then add in some receptions. But that should be enough to pay off his salary. There is a very real chance that Brightwell, could be the guy with most rushing attempts for tonight. He is definitely in the mix. And then after him is Eric Gray, who is a good receiver out of the backfield. On the 49er side, we have Eli Mitchell, who has got almost no work so far this season. He had 5 carries in week 1, 0 in week 2. I would expect if they get out to a big lead, he does get some carries. Now, that Pittsburgh Steelers game was an absolute blowout. He still only got 5 carries. So I don't expect much of a workload for Mitchell. But let's check his ownership, because if he is extremely low owned, then I would consider playing him. But that's probably kind of the only spot. 22% owned. Yeah, I think he's probably a little bit too high priced to be 22%. However, you never know in these showdowns, and all he has to do is rush in a garbage time touchdown at the end of the game to pay off his salary, and that is very, very possible if the game truly is a blowout. The one thing I would say about this, both of these teams do play at a fairly slow pace. So having a big-time blowout in a slow-paced game is a little bit more difficult. That is why that I do think the Giants likely cover the spread. But who knows? Things, crazy things happen in one game spots. McCaffrey, we have him at 51% owned. I think he is likely a little bit higher than that. But he is extremely, extremely expensive. I just realized that I was on the FanDuel ownership, and so we will kind of give a rundown on the DraftKings side as well here, since a little more ownership. Okay, so Jones isn't quite as low owned on DK as he is on FanDuel. I still do like Jones over Purdy. And then running back spot, Eli Mitchell is similar, 26% owned here. But he is very cheap on DraftKings. So on DraftKings, 2,400, you can actually absolutely take your swings. Now, I do think, say, Juszczyk or Mason might be a little interesting on DK, whereas Eric Gray and Brightwell, you can take a swing there as well, just because the Giants, we don't really know what they're going to do. All right, now moving to the wide receiver spot, we got Debo, we got Paris Campbell, Slayton, Wan'Dale Robinson are the highest owned guys. I do have to say at this point, Brandon Ayuk is still questionable. We do not know if he is playing or not. Thus, his projected ownership is very low. Now, we will see throughout the day if that changes. Obviously, his ownership is going to come up big time. However, like we saw with Cooper, on Monday is the ownership never fully got there, even though he was playing. So I do think that Ayuk is interesting at lower ownership if he plays. Now, without Ayuk, I think Debo is in a great spot to crush. And then Ronnie Bell and Jawan Jennings were the ones that really got upticks in that last game once Ayuk got hurt. I think both are very interesting. Bell at $200 obviously is of interest. And then Jawan Jennings at 4% owned is interesting, as, 49ers are big time favorites. They're going to score some points, and you need these guys out. I would say that Ray McLeod is also interesting. He is a big play threat, and at $200, he can go 60 yards for a touchdown and blow up the slate. So he is interesting. On the Giants side, Darius Slayton is by far my favorite wide receiver play. Wan'Dale Robinson, we don't know his status for the game yet, but he was out first week. He was doubtful week 2. He is expected to make his debut. However, he is still working back from injury, and we don't really know how much he is going to play. I think 8% at that is probably, a little high. However, he does expect to be involved. Sterling Shepard is a little interesting. He has not played very much, but his snap counts are going up a little bit. So if they do go up again, I would say it's interesting. Isaiah Hodgins is the wide receiver too. He had great rapport with Daniel Jones last week, and I do like him as my second favorite wide receiver on the Giants side today. So I do think it's interesting to play some Giants players. They are going low owned, and that is how you're going to get some leverage. So just understand that. And then on the wide receiver side, we got Paris Campbell with the best matchup, Deebo Samuel, then Slayton. Now, I personally am not a big fan of Paris Campbell. He's always finds himself on the field, but he just doesn't ever do that much. So that is why I'm not high on him. 6 targets last week, 4 for 21, 4 targets week 1, 1 for 2. We just see that kind of stat line a lot with him. Now, if he's going to be out a lot and the Giants have to throw, he obviously needs to garner some interest there. Slayton and Hodgins are definitely more of my favorite targets there. And then Jawan Jennings and Ronnie are both interesting as well. Now to the tight end spot. George Kittle is one of my favorite plays on this slate if Ayuk is out. I think if Ayuk is out, he is out and catching more passes. And this is a guy that absolutely can break a slate when he's out there. We have seen also that the Giants do let good tight ends kind of go off. Week 16 versus Vikings. 13 receptions, 109, 2 touchdowns for Hawkinson. Schultz, 4 receptions, 31, 2 touchdowns. The better tight ends do well versus the Giants. And Kittle is absolutely one of those better tight ends. So I like Kittle quite a bit. And then you have to consider Waller. Waller did well versus the Niners last year. The Niners have shown they are vulnerable to the tight end, but Waller is really more of a WR1 on this team than anything else. Big play, very athletic guy, and I think he's going to get a ton of targets this year. 5 targets week 1, 8 targets week 2. I expect this 8 target number to be more his usual. So I definitely like him. And if we switch over to the ownership aspect on tight end, we have George Kittle highest owned, Waller 36%, and then all the backups a little bit lower. I do think Daniel Bellinger might be kind of interesting at 11%, just because he has been playing a little bit and one target on the air. But at $800, all it takes is a touchdown. Same goes with Warner and Dwelly, obviously. Defensive-wise, obviously 49ers are the one everybody's going to go to. I don't love the Giants' defense. Hard for me to go there. However, in a low-scoring game and at low ownership, Giants D is slightly appealing because nobody is going to go there. All it takes is, one miscue by Brock Purdy or a fumble for a touchdown, and the entire game changes due to defensive touchdowns. So I would say both defenses are in play. At 5,800, I don't like the 49ers D. I think that is pretty high. They would have to do way too much. However, they are likely to get a turnover or two. It's just, are they going to get a turnover or two and a touchdown? Because that's really what we need for them to get involved. Kickers are definitely in play. If it is a real low-scoring game, then, that's when we see kickers really rise up into the chance of being a captain or an MVP. So they are absolutely interesting. All in all, I think this game is very interesting. I do like it. I do think that people are a little bit too high on the 49ers. The Giants definitely changed their play calling the second half of last game, and it benefited them big time. If they keep that same kind of direction, I think their offense does pose a little bit more of a challenge for the 49ers defense than people are giving it credit to. Now, remember, this is a single game contest. You are going to have to nail the touchdowns. You're going to have to nail a touchdown parlay, so to speak. And with that, do not be scared about playing some different guys. Weird things happen in one game, prime time slates. So let's get a little weird, figure out your favorite pivots, and make it happen. 49ers likely win this game, but how much is the big question here? Make a little narrative with your lineups and go with it. I hope you guys have great luck tonight. Have a good one. I will be back either later this afternoon or tomorrow morning with the Sunday slate rundown, as well as tomorrow the MLB rundown or breakdown. So have a good one, guys. Good luck tonight. Let's win some money.